and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers, and welcome to this light activation with me today to revitalize and reprogram anew ourselves through the living life force and the pulse of life. So I wanted to do this as a separate video first because I've told you in my last Ascension update for the month of June that I've run out of phone battery and actually space as well. So I think it was meant to be for this to be a specific and separate activation. And today when I went out to record this on this beautiful 1st of June, and you know, every month we begin a new energetic cycle with a new frequency, and it's important to have that intention, what we want to deepen. So personally, for example, I like to deepen my Tantric path and move more into that direction. So as well as setting up the intention, it's very important for us to also follow up through with that intention, with everything we do, with the guidance we receive and then listen to through soul integrity and devotion. So I know it's pretty loud here today. I hope you're going to be able to hear me. You know, I don't have really fancy equipment to record. It's just how it is here. I wanted to be in my sacred spot, which is what I call my creation spot. And this spot for me has the highest energy of all that I've experienced here in the Alps. And I've been through many, many, many places with this mountain gorge, very beautiful little pools of water, and there's a creation rock, and I've showed it to you once, with these faces of illumined beings who are guardians of this space. So every time I come here, it's like high on energy, but at the same time it's very grounded, it's very earthy, because you have a lot of nature angels and little fairies, and you can hear them sing even sometimes when you're really attuned, and it's a really beautiful place. So I know people sometimes complain over the equipment, but trust that the energy of this activation, even with the sound and the noise and everything, sometimes, you know, with this new technology, sometimes with the programs we use, they kind of distort a little the sound that comes through with purity. So trust that the frequency I'm generating here, we're generating together as a group. So we're working as pillars of light, because this is my purpose as a creation pillar, to hold this essence, and we are connecting to each other through the crystalline grid. And what I want to explain beforehand is we're going to enter into this sacred cellular releasing and the activation of the pulse of life, so that it moves through every cell of our being, plus the morphogenetic field of all of our cells together, working as a one unified unit. I want to explain a little bit about this process, but I want to invite you, because it is so important to start creating through the life force. And my path is moving me more and more, and I'm receiving these messages to work with the Tantric essence and to move away from the sharing information that I did for so many years into a more devotional space of working with life force. And my mission that's going to come as a sequential opening of that sacred space from this time on. So I want to share with you the first thing that's very important, that is that everything we receive and then create through the life force, which is that Holy Spirit breath of life, so that it's encoded with the illumined presence of that life force, is immortal in its nature. And whatever we're creating from the fragmented lower bodies, let's say from our mind, from the emotional states, if we're creating only on the physical level, just, you know, just reorganizing things, that these things, the four lower levels, never have that immortal quality to them. So they always, you know, transpire. They are birthed and they die, and what we receive and create through the living life force, even though in a physical it might alter and it has its different transformational stages, the essence of it is immortal. So I've explained to you about the seed of life, about the creation through that seed of life, through your presence, through the illumined encoded life force, which moves and gives birth to life in very non-physical level, so that what is physical is a result of that. And that we don't really have true control over, but we do have that control over when we work with the higher control that moves through us, which is the life force. It's very challenging for those of us who are working more from the level of pure spirit, because sometimes what we do and what we bring through the knowledge about that, and what we do behind the scenes with the energy, it's not really seen as something productive or something physical or something tangible. And I've seen many times people responding in a way, and I have to speak about this because it's important. And it's not a criticism, it's not a judgment, it's an observation of we as humans, how we still tend to give value to that which seems physical. So I've noticed that there's a lot of people who are creating these campaigns to sponsor their products or to create these different products, and I'm saying it's all well and fine. It's beautiful that we're working more with this co-creative sharing flow. But I've noticed is because I do a lot of work that's more refined in nature, and it's based on higher advanced knowledge of of this path, because it all begins with spirit. Without that, we can't create in the physical. There is no life as we know it. And I've noticed that those of us who are doing this work of this refined life force, we're not always seen for bringing up something productive. And I've noticed how many times people support the project that have a physical result, such as a book or an oracle cards, or things of physical nature, or a workshop. But what I do myself personally is I create through the living structure of crystalline light. And that goes out through the crystalline grid. It goes out into every particle of life, and every human will benefit from it. It's taking from the unseen, and it's opening up because the refined energy opens that up. So I'm giving you this as an example to know that everything begins as life force. Without the breath of Holy Spirit, nothing would ever exist the way we know it, because it was all infused by that light. And if you want to go further into that sacred activation, I created a mini audiobook that is so deeply important, because it's basically a short recording, but a very pivotal recording about what is the seed of life, how we work with the encoded life force to illumine ourselves, to create greater and greater levels of that refinement of the soul, and get to know the aspect of us that is the creation through the orgasmic life force, and working with it first to illumine ourselves, and then to further that illumination into assisting others as well, and giving birth to life in all these creations. So that's the first thing I want to share today. And then there's some people there, which is very rare here for this point actually. The second thing I wish to share is that what this activation will be about is because we're not fully aware of how much this old programming still holds us from the level of our record memory. And I've talked about the clearing of record memory before many times, and the clearing of the record memory is directly related to the cellular releasing and the cellular healing, which means that every cell, which is its own unit, connected with all the units creating one unit. It's how we function as well as us, and then the greater group consciousness level. And then as one cell illumines itself, they all have that shared message. They all become a part of that tonal alignment. So the frequency travels, the sound travels. And that's why I'm going to work today a little bit with the sound to activate, open the energy. But I want to say that why this record memory is so important, because we function a lot, and this is a very ingrained programming within us through that record memory, and we think we're creating within the new, but it's still that old functioning behind the scenes. So record memory is not really helpful because it stores all this knowledge, and it's useful for us in these cycles of learning and reincarnation. But once the soul starts to walk the path of ascension, it has to start creating a unified column of white light, which I'm always talking about. So it goes down deep into every cell. It has to be an experience when it truly is from all the levels, from the inner core, then it's like blossoming lotus, it's opening up. And this will be further also explained in my book about volunteer souls, the grand design, a lot about the ascension there, because it is my path, but a lot of these things. But today I just want to give you this idea that everything we perceive as linear time processing, sequential time, memories, things that used to be, and it still influences us from behind the scenes, it's not really coming from the ascended light. Because the now, which is a living structure, holds everything you need to know, and the spirit guidance is always in the now. And a lot of people who say they're receiving guidance, a lot of that is from past timelines, and it's not really important in the now. So to have that unified, synthesized timeline, and then that to reverberate into every cell, that the guidance comes directly from the pulse of light. So to give you a little bit of the idea what will be a part of today's activation, and if any of my videos, which were ongoing for years and years, spark up growth within you, and you know you have been assisted, please consider making a conscious energy exchange, because this is the way of the new, so that you support the living oneness. And these things that you say, well, they're not physical, I didn't gain anything physical from it. Well, you've gained illumination, and how can that not be everything you need? It's the biggest essence, is that soul liberation, because everything you're going to create physically from that is going to be from that point of light which expanded you. So that's truly important for us, and I've talked about this as well, because for me it's not about the idea of, oh, you know, we need to be paid for this and that. It's not really that. It's more of seeing that it's the unseen that creates first. And those of us who work more on those levels, because we all function within the great creatrix, within different hierarchy, which is not really low or higher, it's more like different levels of light and different angles of creation. And from that point of my mission, which is being the creation pillar, it's very much seeding that birth of life, which then gives life to all forms. And people don't see it. Like I give you an example in my previous video about the scientists, and then the field of people who are actually bringing that energetically, those ideas, so that maybe certain people pick them up physically, but who's actually doing the invention. That was one such example. So those of us who work behind the scenes with this sacred birthing of this life force, which is so vast, it's so profound through the purity, because this is about that pure state of divine purity, which is the template of the original patterns of light, which are the creation principles. And these pillars are the foundation of all life in creation, through which everything expands. And if it's distorted, it will be distorted. If it's purified, it's purified. And it comes from that core essence. That's what I call the Immaculate Conception, which is that primordial, and it's ancient, it's always been there. So for us to open up to that, we have to give ourselves the chance to meet those levels of us that function only through life force. And these levels are always immortal, they're always perfected. And in our physical experience, it's just not that we're aiming for more of that, but we're opening up to more of that. So let us begin with the activation. I hope you will like it, and may it assist you on the deepest level of your cellular, your physical ascension, as always. So before we begin with the activation, I would also like to invite you to my Tantric Life Force Mastery course, because it really goes into the depth of what a lot of you who are truly ready for this physical ascension culmination, and then the direction of learning how to stimulate and direct this life force through your body, so that you can open up to greater and greater levels of creation. Because a lot of times people just think, this is it, this is what I know, here I am, I've ascended. You're always ascending. And with turning into this sacred life force mastery path, you're gonna envision yourself more as a creation being, a deeply creative being that is always expanding. And on each level of that expansion, you're going to give birth to something new, but it's going to be through spirit. It's not going to be, ooh, what should I do next? Ooh, you know, what should be my next project? It's really that core path of your true core source self. And a lot of people are still yet to meet this aspect of themselves because they just haven't been functioning on that level for so long. And they thought, well, this is it. But a lot of this can fool us, because it's still the record memory, and it's not a synthesis of the four lower bodies, so that we can create a unified light body, which then leads us to this spiral journey of ascension, which is no longer this reincarnative cycles. And you know, it's just a lot of times we say, well, this is guidance, this is from spirit, but it's actually record memory, or it's something subconscious working from there. And these levels are actually coming up because they want to be acknowledged. They want to be seen for what they are, these aspects that have been fragmented for so long because they felt separate. And separation leads to that fragmentation. So with the unification and going deep down into the physical level of every cell, we're actually going to create this new template so that our cells become guided through the living life force and the pulse of light. So this is an add-on activation. Please consider taking the Tantric course, because it's what I created for this phase in life, where a lot of you might be moving into, because this is what true ascension is. And a lot of people talk about the concepts and ideas of ascension, and that's one thing. The other thing is to have a literal transformative alchemical soul experience, which is the true physical ascension. So I'm gonna tell you, it's very short, very simple, how this is, how you tune into your body, and then I'm gonna create sound as you're gonna be holding that vision of that template, okay? So let's set up the intention. May the light travel in the right direction. The root chakra, the stimulation of our Shakti Kundalini life force. So in the Tantric course, you will learn how to conduct, how to generate and cultivate, and how to guide it through your body. And then you're going to also create learn to create the additional life pulse for gradual expansion of your consciousness mastery. Okay, you ready? Ready. So I would like you to close your eyes and feel very connected and grounded. It's very important to feel grounded and anchored in this now moment, because this is the only way this works. The now moment is the essence of all, the totality, the sum of all parts, where all of your intersections and all these aspects of who you are meet and merge in this fusion of your unified light. Now, as you're taking that deep breath, take that breath from your root chakra, from the base of your spine, and expand your belly outwards as you're inhaling with all life. And when you do, hold it a little bit, and then not really hold it, just for a second, and then lift the energy from that base upwards with your out breath and guide it upwards. So it's like if you would envision the sound traveling, you would do like this, right? You would stimulate the life force with your in-breath, and then you see, because if you're like stimulating, the sound goes like woo, 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 yeah, like in pulsations, and then as you gradually lift it up, it's more like a woo. Lifting it up, lifting your life force, okay? Envision that again with the in-breath. And then the out-breath. Okay, so in the Tantric Life Force Mastery course, you're also going to learn how to rebirth yourself through the coming back of that energy through the core, the galactic core, and all of that. But today, let's start with the activation. So when you feel really grounded with that which we achieve with that breath, close your eyes and envision in your inner eye. Zoom in or tune into your cell. Choose one cell. Choose to see the cell that is the structure for all the cells as in your main communication system, that micro level of your body. So it's like you, the master, speaking to the cell which lives within you. So you're actually not just having this body that's fated to you, but you are the creator of your body. You are the master, the governor, that which gives the directive of life. Which your cells are just operating forces. They're just translating that energy. Wow. All those ants here, the big ones. Okay, so as you do that, see your cell as having a pulsation, and then take a deep breath like you just did, like we just did now, And as you're breathing, imagine that you're sending a pulse of light, like an electric bolt, through your cell, through the core of your cell. Imagine your cell has a nucleus. It's just like, you can visualize it as an atom, like a structure of the atom. So in its nucleus, in its core, everything has its core, like you have your core. Every cell has a core. And in that core, with that out breath, you're electrifying. You're helping to electrify your cells. So you are a being of magnetic nature and your electric nature. Divine feminine and divine masculine, that which is the result, is whatever you're creating. Everything you're generating from that. Basic alchemy, basic divine triangulation principle. And when you're putting that jolt of energy through your cell, see a white spiral light moving through your cell. And that white light is that which is the essence of life pulse moving through. So you're basically completely purifying, rejuvenating, and rebirthing your cell at its core structure. That's the first part. You can always do that in your alone time as well. I'm just giving you the idea that's behind the cellular reprogramming. So this way, with this stimulation and purification, you're giving your cell what it needs to start functioning from the ascended level, from the life pulse level. So that the cell no longer needs to go to those endless databases in the record memory banks, but in a way it releases, and it knows that, I am now fed through the living pulsation of the life pulse. So now as you do that first part, now envision cells multiplying. Now zoom into that aspect a little further out, like you're zooming out a bit, which is a morphogenetic field of these cells in your body. So imagine now you have like this auric body, and then you have many other more refined bodies. Imagine that these are all, like there's a white light all around you, and this white light is what helps to create, or what is the creative force of your light body. Then see your cells as fully functioning units within that light body, so that it's the direct light body transference into your physical body. So see those cells as an illumined organism that functions through this morphogenetic field that is now illumined in its nature. And it no longer has to tune into the record memory, because all the four lower bodies are unified, and you see this white glowing light all around you. It's crystalline in nature. And as you hold that vision, envision that initial cell, which you can see like in the middle, sends out a beam of light, which is basically divine intelligence. It is information into all the cells. They all communicate together. They function as one unit. They're interconnected in the web of crystalline light. And you see now they're starting to react to this. They're starting to respond to this. And through their membranes, you can see the information travels as sound. So when we're going to do this sound activation, we're actually going to hold that level of the threshold that is necessary for the sound to stimulate the reverberation through, so that all of the cells become a part of this fully functional unit that functions through the ascended light, through the pulse of light. As an ascended being, you no longer need to go through the endless memory banks. This served you until you were still learning and growing, but an ascended life, an ascending life, is a synthesis life, where you are gathering all of that, and you need to create a new template, a new platform of the new reality, your new self, your ascended self. And then the cells will respond to this from that pulse of life, from that core, through that illumined awareness, and through the crystalline grid of your body, and then the crystalline grid of the planetary body, which you connect to, creating this instant connection and grounding effect upon the planet. And this way, you will fully start to trust that in each moment the pulse of life guides you, that your cells are directly connected to that. You don't have to think too much. You don't have to worry too much. You don't have to, go through these old emotional states. They have served you. They have served you well. Everything up until this point has served you. And now you're able and willing to finally and gradually shift into this new ascended template on a cellular level, which is the embodied level. Because it's the cells that are, you direct them how much of the density you want them to release. So the cells are, of course, literally connected to the cellular structure of the whole universe. So everything, when we talk about, for instance, the dimensions are like different membranes, just like the membranes that are interconnected with your cells. And there's certain aspects of us that we visually see, like our physical body, and there's certain bodies that we don't see because they're too refined, but they still coexist. They're part of the oneness. They're part of this grid that makes us who we are. And choosing to form our structures within that, which is the first core template, so that you can become a master of your embodiment, directing this life force and giving it intention, saying, I wish to have this type of body. I create my body. I am a full master of my cells. The body's not my master. We're one. Not like you're a master in terms of you are this higher authoritative figure and you see your body as something lower or lesser nature. No, you work in unity. You work with oneness. The body serves you and you need to serve the body as well. So that's union, that's unity. That's the oneness principle, and we're deepening our oneness at this time. So as you're holding that vision, you're seeing all of your cells starting to correspond with each other, with the light body. They're still held within the light body, but they're becoming more illumined. And you see within every cell now a spinning vortex of this white light. And you just see and feel this instant download, streaming pulse through the core of the pulse of light, the grand central sun, all the connections you hold on various multidimensional aspects of who you are, and everything can flow through that spiraling white light. There's no information you can miss out on. There's nothing you have to worry about getting right at the right time. There's no such thing. We're now releasing all that. We're releasing concepts of linear time, of sequential programming, of attachment to outcomes, ideas, people, even places, owning things. We're moving into the creation of things. Whatever we need comes in the now. Whatever we are is of the now. Our core is the now. And what we create through life force is of eternal, immortal nature. So let's enter into this deep transmission state. Just hold that vision of what we've now set up as this sacred light activation intent. And we're going to support that through the living sound, which is the essence of all. Take a deep breath through your base, and then as we did before, we're going to breathe it in. And now breathe it out. As you do so, feel a golden opening that illumines all of your cells, the vision that you're holding. And now simply relax, completely surrender into this process, because there's nothing you're in charge of, nothing you need to control. It's all organically happening within you. So just relax and enjoy, and be fully in the now. So, you know, when I was guided to come to this sacred spot today, I was actually called to wear all white, as you could see. And I received this very simple guidance from Spirit that white is, you know, as the white of Ascension and the Ascension column, but also when we dress physically or surround ourselves with white light, white is all colors, as you know. And that means that when we work with our own light, our divine light, when we're white, we wish to be seen, but not really seen. So it's kind of like you're not seen because you're reflecting so brightly through the white light. Whereas many beings who are still wearing lots of dark color, and a lot of them are very sensitive souls, is because they want to stay hidden. And black is sort of the absorption of all color, and it's more working and operating from the hidden realms, while the white is you're beaming with light, but still you want to be transparent for the things, the energies that are not authentic, or they're more distorted or an illusion, and you want them to just pass through you. So imagine being, when you're walking on this planet, so white that you're illuminating, and that you're shining so brightly that you're only visible to the human eye, to those, for those who are somehow worthy of receiving that, although all is worthy, but in a sense that you wouldn't get so much attention from the energies that are not kind of like bringing back to the oneness, or not coherently co-creating through the oneness principle. So when you are dressed in white, you are being washed over by the white light. It's that you want to be seen in an unseen way. So you want to be seen for your radiance, not necessarily for your physical appearance or get lots of attention. But when you wear black, it's like you're hiding yourself, because black is almost like the dissolution of all, while white is the absorption of all colors. So from the darkness, all, you know, comes into expansion, into being, and then it becomes all light, and then at this utmost highest frequency it becomes all pure white. So my beloved ones, do not fear your glow. Become transparent in every way. Work with this pulse of light. Become the master of your frequency and tune into oneness, so that everything you create is from that sacred pool of oneness, which moves back into the unity and becomes self-sustaining and fulfilling in the deepest way possible, as you're always deepening your sense of oneness and your experience of that oneness. So radiate yourself, bathe in the white light. I just did this little sacred ceremony with going into this basin of water, the sacred pool of water. Here it's still pretty cold, but I did a little baptism, little ritual, which I always do. And envision your month, envision your June being that transparent, being so delightful in a way, like transparent. And it's almost like that loosening of energy, loosening of density, being that light at the end of the tunnel, which was a strong passageway for so many souls. But now see yourself not seeking attention, but rather emanating that white light and being transparent. So that which seeks you out is that which is also worthy of that light in mutual reception and in co-creation that comes through oneness, not distortion through ego. So you're still serving through the white light. You're still serving all. You're still serving even the distortions. But in your physical sense, you are not being too exposed to that which is in a way too, sometimes even toxic for you. That's what I meant to transmit through these words, and what Spirit reminded me of today. Again, I'm really sorry for all the noise. It's pretty loud here, but I really needed to record from this spot because that's how guidance came through. And I wish all the best to all of you with so many beautiful heartfelt expansions. When you're looking at the sun, you can literally imagine, and that's how I like to do it as well, that you are breathing in that sunlight into your heart chakra. It may feel a little tightening because whatever is expanding within us will sometimes at the beginning stage feel a little tightening, but then it will expand. So from that contraction there will be another expansion. And nature and Gaia, everything is saying yes. You see there's lots of wind, there's lots of energy moving at this time. I'm wishing you such a beautiful month of June, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. And whoever you are with, remember you are oneness expressed in form. Take care and talk to you soon.